Maybe we'll wait for.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, thank you for attending my presentation today. So, today I'd like to talk about kidney disease in adult patients. So, there are many kinds of kidney disease. So, among the adult kidney disease, I will mainly talk about IgA nephropathy, which I have been working on research in Japan. So before talking about this topic, so let me briefly introduce myself. So I'm Hiroki Yamaguchi. So I have been a nephrology physician in Japan for 9 years. My major is chronic kidney disease related disorders such as diabetes, hypertension, and glomerulonephritis. I received my PhD 3 years ago by doing the basic research on IgA nephropathy. Manako is my wife. She works in the Gomez lab as a postdoc as well. And we have my son, Kyohei. So this picture was taken at the Carter Mountain for cherry picking when we came to Charlottesville. So my son turned 3 years old just yesterday. So yeah, thanks to everyone's support, we can work here and enjoy the Charlottesville line. So I really appreciate it. So
Excuse me, just see if the video is turned on Zoom people.
Okay, maybe.
Oh, yeah, video. No, wait a second. Here.
Oh, sorry.
They would have missed the
Okay.
introduction,
Thank you.
but they would have heard you.
Okay, so here are the today. Okay. Here are the today's topics. So I have seen many patients suffering from the renal failure, and I have been working on the basic research on the IgA nephropathy. So today I'd like to discuss the renal failure and the IgA nephropathy from the viewpoint of the both nephrology physician and the scientist. First, I will show the general background of the kidney failure and the glomerulonephritis. After that, I will show the pathogenesis and the treatment of the IgA nephropathy. So from the viewpoint of the physician scientist. So through the topic of the IgA nephropathy, I'd like to introduce the process of how basic research is applied to the patients. Okay, first I'd like to show the current problem of the kidney diseases. Here is a prevalence map of the patient requiring the KRT. KRT is a kidney replacement therapy around the world. So in spite of the progression of the science, the number of these kidney failure patients keep increasing. And is predicted to increase at least by 2030 worldwide. And as you can see, in the US and Canada, Brazil, Argentina, most European countries, and Japan, there are many patients requiring the kidney replacement therapy. So let's look at the current situation of each country. The graph indicates that the number of ESRD patients and the spending cost on Medicare in the US. ESRD stands for the end-stage renal disease. So in the US, the spending cost for the end-stage renal disease increases every year. So here is the data for the number of the dialysis patients in Japan. So the number of dialysis patients is also significantly increasing in Japan. So around 340,000 kidney failure patients are getting hemodialysis. The population of Japan is 100 million. So that means about 0.3% of the people receive the hemodialysis. So generally, two types of the dialysis are existed. Hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. So hemodialysis, HD, is the most major kidney replacement therapy. So in Japan, about 97% of the ESRD patients received select the hemodialysis. So I will briefly introduce what is the hemodialysis is. So to perform the hemodialysis, we use a dialyzer to clean the blood. In order to clean the blood, we need to extract the huge amount of the blood from the human body and go through into the dialyzer. So nephrology physician make a blood access used by the surgery to extract the blood. The left figure is an illustration of the most common blood access, arterial venous fistula. The physician connect the radial artery and venous of the arm. So by doing this, so the fast arterial blood flow goes through the vein. So by putting a needle to the vein, so we are able to extract the huge amount of the blood from the patient in a short period. But in spite of the blood access, the patient needs to receive the hemodialysis at least 3 times a week for 4 hours each time. That means all patients need to get the surgery and then go to the hospital 3 times per week forever. So that is hard, not on the patient, but on the family and the medical staff. In addition, HD care cost account for about 4% of the total nation health care. This is Japan data. That causes a huge financial burden to the nation. So I think it's fair to say that the work of the nephrology physician is to prevent the end-stage renal disease before becoming the HD patient. So here are the top 3 primary diseases for the end-stage renal failures. Number 1 is a diabetes nephropathy, which accounts for about 40% of the cases. Diabetes is the number 1 cause of the ESRD almost all over the world. Number 2 is the nephrosclerosis. This disease is caused by a complex factor such as hypertension, aging, and atherosclerosis. Currently, many countries are facing the aging society, so the percentage of the patient with nephrosclerosis is very increasing. And number 3 is a chronic glomerulonephritis, which accounts for 15% or 20% of the patient, almost same as the nephrosclerosis. So today's topic is this disease. I will talk about the chronic glomerulonephritis. So here is a cartoon showing the basis of the glomerulonephritis, GN. Glomerulonephritis is defined as inflammation of the glomeruli. Inflammation disrupts the glomerular and the microvascular structures, leading to the leakage of the protein and the blood into the urine. By urine examination, we can detect the glomerulonephritis by proteinuria or the hematuria. If the patient lives this disease for a long time, all the glomerulus will collapse, resulting in the end-stage renal failure. So to detect the glomerulonephritis earlier, many countries perform the urinalysis screening in the school or the workplaces. So when the proteinuria or the hematuria were detected, the patient were basically referred to the nephrology physician. The nephrology physician examined the patient and consider whether this patient needs a kidney biopsy or not. Here is the illustration of the kidney biopsy. I think nobody here have ever seen the kidney biopsy of the patient on the scene. So first, the patient be face down. Then, after the local anesthesia, using the ultrasound transducer and the biopsy needle, physician takes a piece of the kidney tissue from the back. The needle is around 14 to 16 gauge needle, so it is a relatively big needle. In addition, so the kidney received about 20 or 25% of the systemic blood flow. So Lucas has presented last week. So due to the rich blood flow in the kidney, it's reported that 1% of the patient cause massive bleeding by the kidney biopsy, and they need to receive the blood transfusion or the emergent surgery to stop the bleeding. So this kidney biopsy is performed very carefully to avoid the massive bleeding. After collecting the kidney tissue from the patient, nephrology and pathologists examine the tissue samples under the microscope. So we observe the kidney biopsy sample in multiple ways, including the light microscopies, IF staining, and electron microscopy. The method of light microscopy and IF are almost same as mice that we usually doing. Through the kidney biopsy, we can obtain the following information about not only the type of the disease, but also its severity, predicted future prognosis, response to the treatment, and etc. So based on this information, so nephrology physician think about how we proceed with the therapy for each patient. So here the first short summary. So I'm a nephrology physician. So as important. ESRDs are increasing worldwide, including the US and Japan. Nephrology physician works to prevent the ESRD. So chronic glomerulonephritis is one of the major primary diseases of the ESRD. So nephrology physician perform the kidney biopsy to diagnose glomerulonephritis and decide on the therapy. So the next topic is the pathogenesis of the IgA nephropathy, IgAN. So here is data for the histologic diagnosis of the glomerulonephritis by kidney biopsy in the department of the Niigata University, where I grew in Japan. Niigata University was the first institution to perform the kidney biopsy in Japan. So more than 6,000 specimens are available. So our data from 1954 to 2004 shows that about 30% of the glomerulonephritis patients were diagnosed with IgA nephropathy by the kidney biopsy. So that is the highest percentage among the diagnosis of the glomerulonephritis. So let me introduce the overview of the IgA nephropathy. In 1968, so Jean Berger, a pathologist in France, reported the IgAN as a messenger proliferated nephritis characterized by the deposition of the IgA in the glomerular mesangial region. So IgAN was previously called the Berger disease. The clinical feature is that the IgAN is the most frequent primary glomerulonephritis. The peak incidence is around 20 and 40 years old age, and this disease is frequently detected by the asymptomatic maturity. Most of the IgAN patients are not aware of this disease first. So one unique characteristic of IgAN is that the viral infection, such as cold, flu, COVID-19, frequently cause the gross hematuria in IgAN patients. This is a unique characteristic. So some of the patients notice their disease through this phenomenon, symptom. So in addition, so 40% of the patients develop renal failure within 20 years, which means IgAN is a poor prognosis kidney disease. So here is a typical histology of the glomerulus of the IgA patient. So we can see the proliferation of the messenger cells by pus staining. In addition, we can detect the IgA deposition with a messenger pattern by IF staining using the anti-IgA antibody. So the diagnosis of IgAN is relatively easy with the kidney biopsy. But on the other hand, without the kidney biopsy, we can't diagnose this disease. So kidney biopsy is very important for this disease. So here is the cartoon briefly describing how to do damage to the glomerulus by IgAN. So first, the pathogenic IgA deposit at the glomerulus and cause the proliferation of the messenger cells. Then the cytokines such as the TNF-alpha, interleukin-1, 6, etc. are released from the messenger cells and do damage to the capillary or the podocyte around the messenger area. Finally, so glomeruli get sclerosis and lose their functions. So as I mentioned, IgAN is known as a disease showing poor renal prognosis. So the data show that 23% of the IgN patients become ESRD at 3.9 years, and 53% become ESRD at 19 years. So therefore, I'd like to emphasize that early detection of the IgAN is important to prevent the kidney failure. So yes, of course.
So when the term mesangial proliferation,
Mhm.
that means the cell number increase or the
That's
space.
a very good question. The answer is both. So, but characteristic of the messenger proliferation of IgN is increase the number of the nuclei. So, of course, that increase both the nuclei and the substrate. But yes, like that. So, okay. So the next topic is how pathogenic IgA is produced. So in order to explain that first, so let me briefly explain how normal IgA is produced in the human body. So immunoglobulin has 5 isotypes. I think everyone knows. So IgG, IgM, IgE, IgD, and this IgA. I think IgG is the most famous immunoglobulin among them. You usually use antibody for the staining, so you use everyone uses IgG antibody. But actually, IgA is the most abundant immunoglobulin in the human body, not the circulation in the human body. So such as the membrane, mucosal membrane or such. So basically, so IgA is produced in the mucosal organs. The most biggest mucosal organ is the gut intestine. But on the other hand, the main mucosal organ to produce IgA at the upper tract is the tonsil. So here I'm showing the normal histology of the tonsil. In the human tonsil, there are many crypts to expand the surface area. And lymphoid follicle is mainly located around the crypt. In and around the lymphoid follicle, the B cells and the plasma cells mainly produce IgA through the cross switching of the antibodies. So I'm showing the tonsil histology, but the structure in the gut is almost approximately the same. So let me explain how to produce IgA at the mucosal membrane a little bit in detail. So IgA bind to the bacterial flora on the surface of the mucosal membrane, such as the tonsil and gut and other upper respiratory area, to protect the host. In addition, bacterial flora stimulate the B cell and plasma cells to produce the IgA through cross switching of the antibodies. So through the production of the IgA, mucosal organ respond against the antigens, such as the bacteria or the virus and etc., that invade the host. In this pathway, this one, the TNF super family, April and BAF from the dendritic cells play an important role in producing the IgA. Today, please remember these TNF families, April and BAF. Because the reason is that the recent study have reported that the April and BAF are highly associated with the pathogenesis of the IgA. First, the large-scale GBAS study showed that the mutation of the April locus is detected in IgA patients. So briefly, GBAS is a method for comprehensively examining the mutation in the whole exons of the genome using the human patient DNA samples. Using more than 100,000 samples, IgN samples, gain of function pattern of the April gene mutation was detected. So in addition, so in vivo study shows that the transgenic mice of BAF is a cross family of the April, induce the IgA deposition and nephritis through the mucosal barrier disruption. The right figure is a part of the data from my paper. So I analyze the April and the BAF expression of the dissected tonsil of IgA patient and recurrent tonsillitis as control. And I found that tonsil of the IgA patient highly express the April and the BAF, mainly at the germinal centers and the epithelial gate. There are many dendritic cells exist. So in these 15 years, much evidence of the IgAN and APRIL pathway has been accumulated. So next, I will show the which types of the IgA induce the IgAN. In human, IgA has two subclasses, IgA1 and IgA2. The difference is that IgA1 has a hinge region between the CH1 and the CHD segment, while the IgA2 doesn't have a hinge region. In IgAN, so IgA nephropathy, only IgA1 causes the messenger deposition. IgA2 not. So in this IgA hinge region, there are several glycan structures. Among the glycan structures, this one, so galactose deficient structures were found to be more prevalent in IgAN patients. So this galactose deficient IgA1, Gd-IgA1 have some pathogenic characteristics. First is the auto aggregation. So Gd-IgA1 can cause the IgA multimer formation. IgA usually form a dimeric IgA, dimeric, but the Gd-IgA1 can form the polymeric IgA with more than 3 IgAs. The second characteristic is the adhesion to the other proteins. So that means that induce the deposition of the glomerular messenger substance. The third one is a high antigenicity. IgG can detect the Gd-IgA1 and form a IgA-IgG complex formation. This Gd-IgA1 containing polymeric IgA and the IgA-IgG complex are considered to be a major pathogenic IgA for the IgA patient. So based on this report, so I summarize the overview of the pathogenesis of the IgA. A little bit complicated, so I briefly explain. So the bacterial flora at the mucosal membrane stimulate the APRIL and BAFF release from the dendritic cells to produce the galactose deficient IgA1 via class switching at the B cell. The overexpressing of the APRIL or BAFF induce the translocation of the Gd-IgA1, which form the pathological polymeric IgA to systemic circulation. So resulting in the deposition at the mesangium cells and inducing glomerulonephritis. Probably some of the parts are still controversial, but based on the paper and live reviews, this summary should be almost accurate for the pathogenesis of the IgA. A little bit complicated, but this is a short summary.
Quick question, is it the size of the polymer that's causing it to be trapped in the
Right,
mesangium?
exactly. That is the major hypothesis for the deposition of polymeric IgA. That yes. So here the short summary. So IgA is the most common primary glomerulonephritis worldwide, especially in Asia, East Asia. So 40% of the patients develop renal failure within 20 years. So IgA is produced by the mucosal organs such as tonsil, gut, etc. to protect the host from the virus or the bacteria. The overexpression of the APRIL BAFF and the galactose deficient IgA1 are associated with pathogenic IgA production.
So
Yes.
that's almost like I have a question.
Yeah.
How is that you get with galactose deficiency IgA? What causes it? How is APRIL or BAFF leads to the generation of a galactose deficient IgA, which appears to be the key factors to just, get the, you know that because
Yes.
you are inducing something and then producing something that is deficient. And it's not clear to me why APRIL or BAFF will induce only the deficient and not the
That's a very,
one time.
that's a very
You
good
know
question.
that or not?
The question is, I don't know, because it's difficult to collect the human gut from the patient. So nobody saw that in the gut, the APRIL, which APRIL or IgA, so produced by bacterial flora. So, and in addition, so
But do you know what galactoside mesangial cells does to prevent the deposition of IgA complex? Or where is the deficient? Deposits are in mesangial cells, no? Or no?
Mesangial cells, yes, mesangial.
So is it something specific to the mesangial cells that galactose
yeah. So-
wash away the IgA, and if it's deficient, then
Yes.
the toxins
So-
are there or
In
no?
the IgA nephropathy patients, only the mesangial area, the GTIG1 or the polymeric IgA deposits the mesangial cells. But on the other hand, such as the IgA vasculitis patients, such as the Sharing disease, so some of the galactose deficient IgA1 were also deposited at the vasculature, such as endothelial cells or the vascular muscle cells, and induce the inflammation of the vasculature. So that's not reveal that why the GDAG1 can deposit at the mesangial or the vascular area. So this is a mistake. So thank you. Thank you for your question. So the final topic is treatment of the IgAN. So based on the finding of the basic research on the IgAN, so novel therapies have recently developed and shown good effect on IgAN patients. So I will introduce some of them. So as I mentioned, so IgAN is caused by production of the pathogenic IgA, including the Gd-IgA1. So based on the characteristics, the treatment of IgAN was mainly focused on the suppression of the pathogenic IgA. Here the table for the treatment of IgAN patient that was published last year. So basically steroid and other extensive suppressive immune suppression therapy have been selected for the IgAN treatment. So however, so no disease-specific treatment with high evidence level have not been reported. So therefore, in former times, so nephrology physicians mainly performed these supportive therapies such as blood pressure control with a RAS inhibitor, captopril, something like that, and smoking cessation and dyslipidemia therapy. Yes, recently, so SGLT2 inhibitor was reported to delay the progression of IgAN. So many physicians started using this drug, SGLT inhibitors. However, there are supportive therapies, so no disease-specific treatment still exists. So among this supportive therapy, let me introduce this characteristic treatment, tonsillectomy, which is lightmost one. That means low evidence, but I like to emphasize, I like to introduce here. So as I showed today, the characteristic of the IgAN is that viral infection, such as the flu or the COVID-19, frequently cause a gross hematuria in IgAN patients. So all nephrology physicians know the unique characteristics. So in addition, tonsil produce IgA to prevent viral or the bacterial infection. Thus, the former researcher thought that dissecting the tonsil would inhibit the production of the pathogenic IgA. So generally, so tonsillectomy is performed by surgery to dissect both sides of the palatine tonsil. Palatine tonsil is here, we can see. So sorry. Palatine tonsil is here. So this surgery is mainly performed on the child adenoid or the recurrent tonsillitis of the adult patient. The fact is mainly in Japan or the East Asia, so tonsillectomy plus cell therapy has been widely performed as a treatment for IgAN to suppress the production of the pathogenic IgA. Yes, there have been some evidence for the tonsillectomy plus cell therapy such as a good long-term prognosis, reduced recurrent rate, and a high remission rate of the hematuria and proteinuria. But however, in the US or the other European country, there are many papers have been reported that conflict report. So to be honest, the effectiveness of the tonsillectomy and cerebral therapy is controversial at this point. So actually, the incidence of the IgAN varies by the geographical location. Here is the percentage of the IgAN in the individual countries. So as you can see, so IgAN is common in East Asia, such as Japan and China around this area. But in contrast, in the Africa or the US, the percentage is low. So this may due to the difference in the genetical background, such as race, or the environmental background, such as environmental virus, or the food antigen, or the microbacteria, or the major source of the pathogenic IgA from the gut or tonsils. Yes. So based on these findings, geographical difference may contribute to the difference in the effectiveness of the tonsillectomy. So in different countries. Actually, in the US, the tonsillectomy never performed. So but for some reason, in Japan or the other country, the tonsillectomy is still major therapy. This is interesting. So, but tonsillectomy has some problem. So of course, this is the surgery. So there are such as surgical complement, such as bleeding, taste disorders, and of course, steroid can cause many types of the side effects. So physician need to think about the side effects of the steroid every time. In addition, as I presented, tonsillectomy may be less effective in non-Asian patients. Furthermore, the tonsillectomy is not effective for patients who have already had a severe renal dysfunction. So therefore, the safer and more pathogenesis-specific treatment is needed. So, but recently, the situation has changed due to the emergence of this monoclonal antibody therapy for April and BAF. Here are the first report of the monoclonal April antibody for the IgAN model ones. So this paper reported that the monoclonal anti-April antibody decreased the serum IgA levels and the deposition of the IgA at glomerulus. So after that, the several clinical trials started by using the anti-April and anti-BAF monoclonal antibody as shown in these tables. So I heard that some of the trials showed a good result. So and the last November, one of the clinical trial of the anti-April monoclonal antibody was reported in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a top medical journal worldwide. So this paper reported that the monoclonal anti-April antibody significantly decreased the level of the proteinuria, which is a marker for the degree of the glomerulonephritis. In addition, this antibody also significantly decreased the galactose deficient IgA1 levels in the serum, which is the pathogenic IgA as shown today. So this result had a great impact on the treatment of IgAN. So these trials are still ongoing. This is the phase 2 trial. But I think the treatment of IgAN will be changed from the previous supportive therapy to the new pathogenesis specific therapy. So as one of the nephrology physicians, so for IgA nephropathy, I'm looking forward to the result of this clinical trial for the APRIL and BAF target therapy. Yes. So here's the last slide. So tonsillectomy and steroid therapy have been widely performed in Japan, but their effectiveness is very controversial in the US and Europe. The incidence of the IgA varies by geographical location. IgN is common in East Asia, but not in Africa and America. A clinical trial for anti-APRIL and BAF antibodies is in progress. So a new era of the IgN treatment is ongoing. Yes. So that's all. If you have any, thank you for your kind attention. So if you have any questions, so I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a comment.
Yes.
I cheated because I looked at the review on 2022, but I think it's important probably to understand.
Yes.
That apparently the pathogenesis of IgA nephropathy has 4 steps, 4 hits. The first hit is the one that you mentioned correctly, which is the production of IgA with the galactoside deficiency.
Yes.
The second hit that I didn't understand was that that product is recognized in the circulation by IgG as a foreign antigen. So what you have then is IgG making antibodies against these sections that have a galactoside deficiency and forming antibodies in the circulation. And that's the reason why the levels of IgA correlate with the
Yes.
disease. And then, as always happens with mesangial cells, without any specificity, glycan in the mesangial cells, any foreign deposit that is circulating has the tendency, since you filter blood through the kidney, to go through the mesangial cells that work like macrophages. Mesangial cells are the macrophage in the kidney, clearing things and inducing contractility. Third hit, you need mesangial cells more likely to accumulate. And the fourth hit, and I'm cheating here, but anyway, it's good to cheat, is that leads you to the, when you deposit things in the mesangium, you always get glomerulonephritis, which is, you got a lot of mesangial expansion and all that.
Yes.
So maybe I should give you the picture that they have, because it would be fantastic when you presented this to put all things together. But I initially I didn't understand why you were having a disease, why an IgA deficiency glycans was inducing, whether it was something that was in the mesangial cell. But then now it's very clear, and that is why these monoclonal antibodies essentially will be reducing the production of the IgA deficient complex. That will reduce the number of IgG foreign antigens that the IgG recognize, that correlates with the levels of IgG in the circulation, predicting the kidney disease, and that will reduce the deposition of this complex in mesangial cells and reduce proteinuria.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the explanation. So
This is
I
a
know
beautiful picture.
Yes.
The last slide should be
that
this.
multi-hit
The four hits.
theory is a very famous phenomenon in the IgAN field. So this theory is proposed by the Japanese physician, Dr. Suzuki. So I met him and I learned from him a little bit. So in the conference, so I omitted some of the phenomenon here, but it's a little bit complicated. So I briefly explained the result today. So yes, but that's a very good. I think that this 4-hit theory is a good explanation for the IgM.
But for you, you are too young here. But for people like me that seen this many years ago, proteinuria, we were treating with angiotensin converter enzyme inhibitors. In another of the areas that I work, HIV, the kids were dying when they were having 1.5, 2 years, and it was terrible. And now, for all of you doing research, it's amazing how in less than a lifetime, you just can see diseases disappearing and all that. The only problem is that this monoclonal antibody costs a fortune, and it's going to be very tough to implement those treatments in low-income countries, or not even low-income, because a treatment monoclonal antibody can cost you like $20,000 per month or something like that. So it looks like and then there may be something genetically with the Asian population also that are more likely to develop this, less likely to develop other kidney diseases.
Yes.
So that was good.
Is there like a SNP? Is the GWAS finding,
SNP,
is it higher, moderate, low frequency in East Asian?
Gain of function. So
And another point is you talked about the diagnosed using proteinuria and
Mhm.
hematuria, right? But have some patients the proteinuria less than 1 gram deciliters.
Mhm.
I found an article like was published. a couple
Yes,
years ago. I
so-
remember they are trying doing this kind of correlationship
Mhm.
with C3 complement 3 ratio with IgN into the serum. For the predict the disease is better than protein because proteinuria is when you use
That's a very good point. So some of the IgN patients, so such as the mild patient, have show only the hematuria. So, but no proteinuria.
proteinuria.
But we already know that only the hematuria patient show the good prognosis. So proteinuria is a very good marker for the prediction of the IgA. So the one point is that there are no good serum or urine marker for the diagnosis for the IgA. So actually,
This study,
TDIG1 is increase in the IgM patient in the serum urine, but the threshold is a very something like the overlap. So
I think in this study they use more than 8,000 patients in China. And they do this correlation with the ratio of the C3 complement 3 with the
So
patients has the less 1 gram deciliter.
some of the protein or the IgA-related proteins are reported to correlate with the severity of the diagnosis, but there are no, I think, as far as I check, I think there are no good evidence proteins are not being reported. So, sorry.
Yes, I'm not sorry. But the important thing in the kidney, if you want to use there are three key cell types, the podocytes, the mesangial cells, and the endothelial cells.
Yes.
And those are the key cell types that maintain the glomerular filtration barrier. Typically, the cells that hit directly podocytes, those are the slit diaphragm that when you leak
yes.
and you have
Yes.
huge proteinuria and nephrotic syndrome. So if you see a disease that is all proteinuria, that's you thinking podocyte.
Yes.
Then you have this disease that what you have and what you were mentioning about C3 is mainly inflammation. You don't have a direct hit to the podocyte.
Yeah.
You have deposit in the mesangial,
Yes.
inflammation, and that inflammation just touches a little bit the endothelial cells and a little bit the filtration barrier, and that gives you proteinuria, and depending on how much you hit the endothelial cells, hematuria or proteinuria alone, but never the proteinuria that gives you nephrotic syndrome, swelling of the face and all that. And then you have diseases that are hitting directly the endothelium. And then you have a bad disease where you have a lot of hematuria, hemolytic uremic syndrome, you see a lot of blood in the urine and all that. So essentially the way nephrology thinks is like it depending on how much proteinuria, depending on how much hematuria, and depending on how much inflammation you may have one or the other.
Yes. So in our department, so our mentor tried to do the FACS sorting, FACS of the urine to detect the podocyte or the other cells. So they try to examine the association between the renal kidney histological findings and the podocyte or the other cells emission rate. So I think my mentor previously reported in some kidney journal, but yes, our department tried to analyze that using that.
But every time you see nephritis, it means inflammation. So that means you have a little bit of proteinuria and a little bit of hematuria because you have inflammation. But when you have a disease that hit directly the podocytes, then you have massive proteinuria and nephrotic syndrome. And you don't have hematuria always, when the kidney is too bad, all the cells and everything can happen. But in theory, the cell that really plays a critical role in the filtration barrier is the podocyte. When you hit that cells, when you have more pure proteinuria. So mesangial cells deposit should not give you basic proteinuria unless the inflammation is so bad that all the podocytes are phased. And children have usually the primary nephrotic syndrome, which is from one day to another, they just become swollen and they start, peeing protein in the urine. They have low albumin, nephrotic syndrome without hematuria. Thanks God, most of these things just clear on its own. But
이거 지금
Thank you so much.
no more questions?
Do you have question from the student?
Okay. Thank you very much.
that's really big.
Yes.
Good, slide. So it's really good.
And what do
You want some pizza or which one?
Something.
They have vegetarian, pepperoni.
The last one.
The last one?
Send it to you. That was very good. I asked the question because I was not clear, but this is amazing how it's changing all the time.
Great.
Very well presented.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yes.
Sarah.
This,
Right here. Yeah. Because like it's predicted because it has.
John Novak is a very good, very famous, physician for the idea.
I promise that I asked the question without knowing that. I said, but I think it's very good. That was a great question. But finish with the, because what missed, maybe I was late, it's how the GGs recognize efficient life and as a sign.
I'll take some next week.
That is amazing. When I was your age, I didn't know anything about that. I was just there.
That's why you.
That's too much, you know. I didn't come with it.
Yeah.
I know, it takes me pretty much.
But Nick is going in there. Yeah, I think it's gonna be, well, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be in the room, so I'll probably let him know outside.
So the record.
I owe him. Alright. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because sometimes he does some else work in another room, so there might be somebody inside.